Alright, welcome to another episode of This Is Anything Goes. Today we are going to look at the alternator of the Prodo MyV and determine whether the alternator is faulty or not. Alright, and if needed, how to repair it or replace the whole unit in itself. Alright, so to start off, as you can see, it's at 12.7 volt without the engine started. So this shows that the battery seems to be okay, but let's start the car and see how it goes. Okay, voltage seems to be good, 14.2, hang on, 14.3. Alright, so it seems that the charging is good, but this doesn't mean that the alternator is good. Alright, so another test that we can actually do is we can take out the negative terminal and see how it goes. It still seems good, but it seems to be a bit overcharging. Okay, so the car died by itself the moment I turned on the headlights. Okay, we are going to remove the negative terminal. As you can see, we are still at 14.2.3. Alright, let's just remove this. Give it a while. Okay, you can see the voltage is going to 14.8, overcharging, and it died. Alright, so this goes to show that it's not a battery problem, but more towards an alternator problem. So we're going to take out the alternator. Alright. Okay, so the first thing you need to do whenever you're working on anything electrical is you need to disconnect the battery. So I have the negative out. I'm going to disconnect the positive as well. Alright. Okay, so we have disconnected the positive and negative. There's no electrical current at all on this car right now. Okay, next is we need to jack the car up. Alright, so that's what I've done. I've jacked the car up. Okay, and I'm using my new 3-ton jack stands, which is much higher. Safer as well. Alright, this is meant for lorries and SUVs. I purchased this because of the Alpha, because the other jack stand, the one that's over here, the small 2-tons one, well, let's just say it dropped a couple of times, twice. Alright, and I don't feel safe, so I bought some heavy duty lorry jack stands. Okay, so the location of the alternator for the Prodo MyV is actually at the back of the engine over here. Right, if you notice, this is your aircon compressor. Then you have your power steering belt, power steering pump on the top there. This is your main pulley. Then you have your water pump over there, and then you have your alternator here. Alright, and as you can see, there's barely any space to remove it. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to remove the entire alternator first. I'm going to do something stupid. I am going to, let's see if I can get this. I am going to remove this socket here first. Then I'm going to remove these 3 nuts here, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to remove this cover here, and I'm going to take out the carbon brush. The carbon brush has 2 screws holding it, and I want to check whether the carbon brush is worn off. If it is, I'm just going to change that, which probably cost me less than 15 ringgit rather than changing the entire alternator. So let's give that a try first. Okay, so I'm going to take out the 3 nuts and disconnect this. Alright. Okay, so that's how it looks like once we have removed the cover and also the carbon brush. So the carbon brush is actually in the middle. Let's have a look at the carbon brush, shall we? Okay, so this is the old carbon brush. Alright, you notice how short it is actually. Let's compare it with a new one. Alright, you will notice that this is much thicker, longer compared to the used one. Okay, so I believe due to the fact that this is much shorter already, so the contact point is not as good, so I'm changing that out, and I hope that solves the issue. I hope. Okay, so to plug this back in, we need the cover. We need to put this into the cover. Okay, yeah, need 2 hands for this. So you get a rough idea. You need to put this into the cover, and what you need to do is when you install it that time, you need to make sure you press this in. Okay, press it in, then slot it in. Okay, so once we have the carbon brush in, it's time to close it up. So let's look at what we are going to do. Alright, okay, so we have the cover over here. Alright, so we'll put this cover on, then we will put this one on. Okay, we'll put this one on, and then we'll lock it with this nut. Alright, then we will put in the positive terminal, and then we'll lock it nut with another nut. Alright, and then we'll plug in the socket over here, and there is 3 nuts here to tighten. Alright, once that is done, we are done, and we'll give it a test. Alright, so let's do it. Okay, headlight is on. Still good, no overcharging. Let's disconnect the negative. Still good. Okay, seems like it's good. Alright, seems like it's holding a very good steady voltage as well. Alright, I have all the blinker on, all the lights on, aircon maximum, radio maximum. Alright, as much electrical power as it needs, it's doing it right now. Engine isn't dying, which is good. Alright, so that's the end of this DIY, and this is how we change the carbon brush on the Prodor Myris alternator. Majority of the alternators has the same layout, in which the carbon brush is actually just below the cover. Alright, so you just need to see which bolt or which screw to take out to access the carbon brush. Apparently the design is that the carbon brush should be easily accessible to be replaced. Alright, okay, so let's talk a bit about the symptoms of the car before I change the carbon brush. So the problem that I was having was that even while driving, alright, especially when I'm slowing down, okay, when the engine is, the RPM is going down, alright, the car will just suddenly die off, especially when during evening or night time when the headlight was turned on. Alright, meaning that there's additional draw of power. Okay, so this leads me to think that at first I was thinking it was a battery problem, but it does crank back up. Alright, meaning that the battery still has charge, still have enough charge as well, so it doesn't show me that the battery was having any issues. So when I did a test where I started the car and removed the negative terminal, the engine died immediately, as you saw in the video. Alright, okay, maybe after a couple of seconds. Alright, when the aircon compressor kicked in, it just died. Alright, but when I was on the road and testing it at the time, it died immediately. Alright, so this leads me to believe that it is an alternator problem. Now, if it was me 2 years ago, alright, I would have just changed the entire alternator. Alright, but economy is not good. A new alternator costs about 200 to 300, some 400 over ringgit for this car. So I was thinking of maybe I can fix it, because the alternator was not having any sounds. all right, it's running smoothly, it's just not providing enough charge. So one of the things that I changed was the carbon brush. Now inside the alternator, there's a couple of things that you can actually service. There's two bearings, there's the pulley, there's the carbon brush, all right. However, to change the other three things, the two pulleys, the two bearings or the pulley, you will need to actually remove the entire alternator, all right. In which case, I will say if you're going to remove the alternator, might as well you buy a new alternator. But the carbon brush was easily accessible from below the car, so I do not need to actually remove the alternator. So that's it. Alright, just changing the carbon brush, I actually solved the issue. It has actually been about 2 weeks since I did this DIY. The car has not stopped even once. Alright, it's working perfectly fine. I'm confident to drive it further out from where I stay as well. Alright, before this I was a bit worried that the engine will stop while I'm driving, so I only drive within like 1 to 5 kilometers around the house. Now I can actually go further because I'm more confident since I've been using it for 2 weeks and it has zero issues. Okay, so let's talk about the cost. The cost of the carbon brush is 9 ringgit, plus shipping is about 13 ringgit 90 cents, alright, which is very much cheaper compared to replacing the entire alternator. Alright, moreover, you save yourself the hassle of adjusting the serpentine belt again if you were to replace the alternator. Okay, the time it takes to do this DIY. Now, for me, it took a couple of days because I took out the carbon brush and I have to order a new carbon brush, and that took about 3 days to arrive. 3 to 4 days to arrive. Shopee Express is horrible. Okay, so if I were to do it with the carbon brush in my store, meaning that I have it ready, this DIY probably take about half an hour. Alright, it's just, let's see, 3 bolts for the cover, 1 connector to take out, 2 bolts for the positive terminal, that's all. Alright, it might be a bit difficult to angle your tools inside there because you'll be blocked by the drive shaft, you'll be blocked by the subframe and all. Alright, but overall it's quite accessible, quite easy to do. Alright, I have not met a mechanic that actually will do this. They will actually replace the alternator, probably because it's higher margin for them, but who knows, right? Okay, that's enough talking. I shall end this video. So if you have not done so, make sure you hit the subscribe, make sure you hit the like and the bell button. Alright, every subscription counts, so I'm counting on you. Till next time, I will see you again.